Hello and welcome to Meet the Staff, another edition. Today we have our newly constructed TAS faculty. I'll introduce the panel members in a moment. But to give a little bit of context to this particular Meet the Staff, we had a meeting last week of Year 9 parents, and at that meeting we had a panel to explain to the Year 9 parents the operation of the HSC as we're moving into stage 6, which is year 11 and 12, and how the HSC looks and how the HSC works. What we also spoke to the parents that night was a lot about excellence and a pathway to university. What we didn't talk much about was other pathways that we will be offering into the future as these young men move to years 11 and 12. So the context and the point of this Meet the Staff is to answer that very question. So we're going to start with me introducing some of our staff, our TAS staff members, and I'll simply ask them to introduce themselves and to say what they do and what they teach and where they're from. So first of all, Adrian McEvitt. Adrian joins us this year from Cogra Marist.
Thank you for having me.
Where you were the TAS coordinator.
Correct.
Firstly, what is a TAS coordinator?
Leader of Learning in TAS, which is Technical Applied Studies, which is all sorts of different sort of subjects like industrial tech, timber, food technology, tech mandatory, and it's really based around applied learning and students learning through doing in practical subjects.
So you've been employed as the leader of VET across 2 colleges,
Yep.
OLMC and DLR South Caringbah.
Yep.
So what is VET and what is your role?
Okay, so I'm instructional leader for VET at OLMC and DLR South Caringbah. It's an important job because both colleges haven't seen the implementation of VET. VET stands for Vocational Education and Training. And we're offering a number of different frameworks of industry skills, such as, for example, construction and hospitality in its initial year. These are industry skills made by industry professionals that lead to post-school pathways and employment, hopefully, in those areas. We're also looking at implementing school-based apprenticeships, so SBATs, and there's also opportunity for students to study externally in EVET and TVET courses. Sydney Catholic Schools, Peter, is really well geared up with some trade training centres, and they get to do electrotech, plumbing, all sorts of different sort of trades and whatnot.
And the idea is that those options will be available to our students?
Absolutely, yeah. We're looking into also, and it's not just trades. It's we've got IDT, information and digital technologies. There's a range of opportunities at OLMC. We're talking about sending girls to nursing and whatnot as well.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
All right, we might move to Louise Benson. So welcome, Louise.
Thanks, Peter.
Louise comes to us new this year from Marsland College, Randwick, a big boys' school, as is Cogra Marist. And Louise there was also the leader of TAS. Louise is our leader of TAS here, so perhaps you might expand on your experience at Marsland and also explain to us what the leader of TAS is.
Yeah, thanks, Peter. At Marsland College, we were a thriving TAS department. So I would say about 3/4 of Year 9, even Year 11 and 12 would take a TAS subject. So the boys love the subject, they love the practical learning, the authentic learning skills, because they're up doing things. So they're showing and problem solving with practical activities. In addition to that, we had our VET department as well. So at Marsland, I was the hospitality teacher. So in addition to my teaching degree, I also have a VET qualification in hospitality. So that involved me training in the hospitality industry, going to work placement, and really experiencing firsthand what the industry's like. So obviously then you bring that back to school with your students and you're training the boys to be work ready. But within that, they're learning a range of different skills, not only for a trade, but they're lifelong skills. So the boys can do their barista certificate, they can work in coffee shop operations as well as restaurants, and they can combine that when they go to university, or they can go into their own career pathway. So I found that the boys thoroughly enjoyed those skills, and they really step up and take on that leadership. So it's critical thinking, but in a very practical environment.
Okay, and so all of that would be on offer to our boys here when we move to year 11?
Yeah, and that's correct. And so here at Dillard Carrying Bar, we haven't really seen hospitality. So what it does involve, it involves working in a commercial kitchen. So it's very different to food tech. So the boys here would do food tech. And in food tech, we've got our written work and our practical work. And we learn more about the food industry and different trends in the industry. Whereas hospitality is really training to work in a kitchen, a commercial kitchen. So the boys work in an industrial environment. They have to be industry ready. So they have to cook within industry timeframes. And so there's a lot of challenges. In addition to that, because they're all going for their certificate qualification, it's not so much a group work. So they do their own skills and they have to practice those skills at home as well, so that then they can be competent and ready to go on their work placement.
Excellent, thank you. We also have as our panel here Nathan Collins, and Nathan again is new this year from Cogra Marist.
Yep.
Nathan, you were the Year 10 coordinator.
Correct.
At Cogra last year. You've been there about 14 years.
Yeah, 14 years. I would have completed 14 years this year.
And you would say that boys' education is your expertise?
Yeah, definitely my expertise. Prior to that, I was in co-ed education, and I moved to boys' education. I find that boys' education is really good for boys to develop excellent skills, mateship, leadership, camaraderie, and stuff like that. So I find that obviously a single set school such as a boys' school allows them to be less distracted and more focused on their education and be able to do better and strive.
Let's talk about your speciality in the TAS faculty.
Yep.
You have come to this school with a reputation around your skills with furniture, woodwork, crafting.
Yep.
Can you talk to us about what your skill set is, what you have to offer our students here, and what's been some of your success?
Okay, excellent. My skill set is industrial technology, timber products and furnishings. I also have obviously teaching degree in vet construction as well. So it's a hands-on on both of the subjects. Everything is, allows the boys to work on a different type of intelligence that they have, such as building things with their hands, other than the literacy and numeracy, although literacy and numeracy are extremely important in that subject to gain excellent results. What I've found through the years of teaching that subject, I've found that boys who apply themselves continuously throughout the year and aim for a project that's quite high and difficult, they always meet that expectation and they end up getting excellent results through study patterns, continually working throughout the year on the project and the portfolio, which is a document we use to to basically strengthen how their project's made. So for that, the folio actually leads them into great project management and stuff like that if they're looking at external jobs such as project management, leadership roles, foreman if they're going on the construction industry as well. So yeah.
So think about over the 14 years that you've been teaching HSC. Typically, students that do really well with the crafting of making a product, might be a piece of furniture, for example. What has that led them to in terms of employment? What have some of your students become in their future?
Excellent. A lot of the students have actually gone into the construction industry. A number of them have, or they've gone into some sort of cabinetry. So they've gone into a trade of some sort. A lot of the boys do, work as builders, or they end up going and being project managers. We've also had boys that go and do cabinet making, or they go into other trades that sort of lead or lend off that, such as electrical, plumbing, tiling and bricklaying and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So just a question for parents really around HSC, and I might ask you, Louise, this question. So when a boy enters into stage 6, which is year 11 and then year 12, they have a number of pathway options. For some students, they have a great desire to go to university. For others, they may not. Some are a little bit unsure, but they all attain a HSC. So that's the one thing that's in common is the HSC. Can you talk to us about what some of those options are for our students?
So some students will go along the traditional pathway to get a HSC. Other boys will go on a pathway where they might get a non-ATAR, but they still get the award of the HSC. Other boys do a blended pathway. So if you look at something like hospitality, I teach boys in my classroom and some are doing a HSC ATAR and some are doing a non-ATAR, but I'm delivering that framework in the one classroom. So although these boys are on different pathways, as a teacher, I enter that classroom where they're all the same. And really we come together and the boys are looking at that for different purposes. But when we teach that in the one class, you're not really aware of what pathway the boys are in. And certainly in terms of the Year 12 cohort, the boys all come together. And although they're on those different pathways, they come together as a form and as a community. So as a teacher, when the students have these different pathways, it's not something where I think parents might think that they're very different. As a teacher in the school, the boys are just the same. They're just making different choices.
Okay, thank you. Adrian, a young man is a little bit unsure often
Yep.
about what his education looks like in Year 11 and 12 and therefore what his future might look like. I know that you counsel students in this area. What advice do you have for a student who may have academic ability, may be doing very well, but is also a craftsman and has a great desire perhaps to go into a trade?
Yeah.
What options are there for him to be successful?
So I think firstly I'd like to say with the wealth of experience that have come to De La Salle Caringbah, they're in a really good place firstly. We've dealt with, as Nathan alluded to, we've dealt with a number of students who have become excellent tradespeople. Not just tradespeople, successful small business owners as well, whether it be in hospitality or the construction industry, wherever it may be. Those practical subjects that we've been talking about they've helped them create a project, but finish the project. One of our mottos was whatever you start, you finish really well.
I also think that like a student who is academically minded, an opportunity in VET allows them to do work placement. And work placement is basically they get to go out on site for 2 weeks. They have to complete a minimum of 70 hours throughout their 2 years doing VET, either construction, hospitality or any other VET subject that we deliver at a school base. The thing with doing work placement allows the boys to get both either a positive or a negative, especially if they're academic minded, they're not sure if they want to go to uni, if they want to go into a trade. The good thing is, if it's positive, then they know that they've made a good choice to possibly go down that pathway. If it's negative and they don't like it, well, they know that that's something they don't need to pursue when they leave school. So that's probably a really good option, being the fact that you can choose VET construction and you do get work placement that allows you to sort of give you a taste of what it's actually all about in the industry.
My final individual question to you, Nathan, is around high standards.
Yep.
So we talk about high standards here, particularly in an all-boys setting.
Yep.
Do high standards apply for every student, the academic student, the tactile student that's good with his hands? What's your view on having these high standards for success?
Look, I think high standards and delivering, course content that's actually aiming the boys to achieve above what they're capable of is always important. But as long as a boy does their best, that's the reality of it as well. As long as they value add to where they were supposed to go with a HSC, obviously there's a lot of ways they can assess boys through NAPLAN and they have a trajectory of where they're going to be. If we can make sure that those boys are adding to their success and therefore they're definitely value adding to their education as well. But definitely like pitching the boys at a really high standard so they live to it and actually being around them to support them, everybody sort of lives to that standard as well. It makes it a lot easier that everyone's on board and everyone's doing their best as much as they can.
And look, my final question just in general, and people can answer this individually if you like. It's just a little bit of a relationship question, but I as principal need to assure parents that no student in the school is ever left behind. Not one. What sort of assurance can you give that no student in this school will ever be left behind?
I think it's got to do with the relationship that you have with the boys. And so when they go to year 11 and 12, they are a lot more mature in what they do, but it's tapping into their skills, but their strengths, and getting to know them as people. And so that builds together that camaraderie. And I think I know in hospitality, the boys come as a team. We have a kitchen brigade, and they all have to play different roles, and they take turns of being the head chef, and they take turns of being like the real apprentice. So the boys, when they come together and they have to step up, it's knowing their strengths and guiding them and supporting them within it. But in there, they've got their mates as well in the classroom. But it really comes around the relationship between the teacher and the student, which is critical. And it's something here I know at DLR in this community is very strong to begin with. And I've found already that the boys really love that environment. And that's where, as Nathan was saying, they all step up. They all want to produce something that's excellent. And it's that team approach.
All right, I'd like to thank very much Adrian, Louise and Nathan for this latest edition of Meet the Staff.